And I would like to inform you that we'll begin today's inaugural session within 5 minutes. Thank you very much.
So today, so here in this place in Ladakh, people are full of have unwavering faith and devotion and spiritual bonds with me, and many different people from around the world have gathered here, and you are praying for my long life. From my side, may the Dharma be revived and spread through compassion. Wherever it has spread before and declined, may it revive, and where it has not spread in the past, may it shine forth. So, it is my 91st birthday, so I'm now 91.
Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kunga Chundin. I'm the program coordinator at Tibet House, New Delhi. And it is my great honor and a great privilege to be moderating today's session. I would like to extend my sincere appreciation to our distinguished guests, respected dignitaries, esteemed panelists, and all ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Tibet House, the cultural center of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, New Delhi, I would like to extend a warm and heartfelt welcome to each one of you as we gather today to commemorate the 91st birth anniversary of His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama. Today is not only a celebration of the birth of an extraordinary spiritual leader, but also a tribute to a lifetime dedicated to promoting compassion, peace, nonviolence, universal responsibility, and harmony among all people. Through his wisdom and unwavering commitment to the welfare of humanity, His Holiness has inspired millions across the world, transcending all boundaries of nationality, culture, and faith. As we conclude the Year of Compassion, may today's celebration and the panel discussion on the 4 principal commitments of His Holiness the Dalai Lama inspires us to reflect upon His Holiness' timeless teaching and renew our shared commitment to building a more compassionate, peaceful, and harmonious world. Following the panel discussion, the concluding segment of the program will feature the conferment of course completion certificates upon the students of the 30th batch of Tibetan language course. Thank you all, ladies and gentlemen, for joining with us on this auspicious occasion. We are truly honored by your gracious presence. Now, before we further proceed, I would like to acknowledge a deeply saddening incident that took place on 2nd July 2026 when the late martyr Paul Logaranzila, the former president of the Tibetan National Congress, section New York, New Jersey, lost his life following an act of self-immolation in front of the United Nations headquarters in New York, undertaken as a protest against China's recent ethnic unity and progress law, goes into effect expressing his deep concern for the preservation of Tibetan culture, language, and identity. In his memory, may I now respectfully request all of you to kindly rise and observe a minute of silence in solemn remembrance of the late martyr Paul Logaranzila. Let us honor this life with quiet reflection and offer our heartfelt prayers for the swift passage of his noble soul. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I request all of you to kindly be seated. Now let us carry forward with today's event, ladies and gentlemen. Please join me in warmly welcoming on stage our chief guest, Shri Shyam Saranji, the former Foreign Secretary to the Government of India and currently the President of India International Center, New Delhi. Our guest of honor, Shri K. N. Srivastavji, retired IAS officer, Director of the India International Center, New Delhi. Professor Dr. K. G. Sureshji, an academician, a distinguished journalist, and the Director of India Habitat Center, New Delhi. Shri Surendra Kumarji, the Vice President of the India-Tibet Friendship Society, New Delhi, and Shri Dilip Sinha, the Ambassador, a former Indian diplomat, a public administrator, public speaker, and an author on stage. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome them with a huge round of applause. And I kindly request all the dignitaries to come forward for the ceremonial lamp lighting. May I request all the dignitaries to kindly proceed with the ceremonial lamp lighting. Thank you very much. I request our esteemed dignitaries to kindly be seated. as we celebrate the 91st birth anniversary of His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama, let us dedicate this offering to the enlightened ones and pray for His Holiness' long life, excellent health, and the flourishing of peace and harmony throughout the world. On this note, now I would like to request our Secretary, Mr. Tenzin Kunjapla, to offer the white scarf kata and the souvenir to our chief guest and our esteemed guest of honor. It is our sincere token of gratitude, profound respect, and deep appreciation for their gracious presence and meaningful participation in this significant deliberation. Ladies and gentlemen, our chief guest, Shri Shyam Saranji. Our guest of honor, Shri K. and Srivastavaji. Professor Dr. K.G. Sureshji. Shri Dilip Sinhaji. And last but not least, Shri Surendra Kumarji. Now coming back to the main event today, I would like to briefly introduce you about Tibet House, the culture center of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, New Delhi, and its various programs and activities. Tibet House, New Delhi, it was established in the year 1965 by His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama, and it was founded to preserve Tibet's rich cultural and spiritual heritage and to serve as a center for Tibetan culture and Nalanda Buddhist studies. Guided by His Holiness' vision of compassion, universal responsibility, and interfaith harmony, Tibet House promotes dialogue between ancient wisdom and contemporary knowledge. It brings together Buddhist masters, scholars, practitioners, students, and the general public through its diverse educational and cultural programs. Tibet House houses a museum of Tibetan art and artifacts, a library of nearly 5,000 books and manuscripts, a resource center, a conference hall, and a bookshop. Its activities include lecture, seminars, interdisciplinary conferences, exhibitions, film screening, publications, and courses in Nalanda Buddhist philosophy through dialogues on subjects such as neuroscience, quantum physics, Buddhist psychology, spiritual ecology, and universal ethics. Tibet House continues to promote compassion, ethical values, and meaningful learning for the benefit of humanity. Tibet House currently offers 4 structured courses in Nalanda Buddhist philosophy and psychology, along with a comprehensive Tibetan language course. These include the Nalanda Master's Course, Nalanda Diploma Course, Nalanda Certificate Course, and the Nalanda Introductory Course. Today, more than 10,000 active students from 104 countries are associated with these programs. Following the successful completion of the Nalanda Diploma Course Batch 5, Batch 6 was commenced on 15 March 2026 with simultaneous interpretation available in Russian, French, Ladakhi, Hebrew, and Mandarin. The Tibetan language course offered in 4 levels has successfully completed 30 batches, and the 31st batch began on 1st June 2026 with 99 enrolled students. In addition, the Nalanda Dharma Studies, led by Venerable Geshe Dorje Damdula, the director of Tibet House, New Delhi, are conducted every Wednesday and Saturday in both online and physical modes, offering authentic teachings on Buddhist psychology, philosophy in Tibetan with simultaneous Ladakhi interpretation. These sessions provide a unique opportunity for serious students to engage deeply with the Nalanda tradition. With this, now may I invite our venerable monks to please come on stage and offer the ceremonial prayers, invoking the blessings of the Triple Gem to mark the beginning of this sacred and auspicious celebration. Now I request our secretary to kindly offer them the white scarf as a token of sincere appreciation and gratitude. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we would like to present a video message on screen from His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama on his 91st birthday today.
So today, so here in this place in Ladakh, people are full of have unwavering faith and devotion and spiritual bonds with me, and many different people from around the world have gathered here, and you are praying for my long life. From my side, may the Dharma be revived and spread through compassion. Wherever it has spread before and declined, may it revive and where it has not spread in the past, may it shine forth. So, it is my 91st birthday. So I'm now 91 years old. I've reached this age. When I look back in my life, this altruistic thought to help others has been there in my practice as soon as I wake up. Every day of my life. So saying this prayer, may the teaching of the Buddha be revived where it has declined. May it spread. May I be able to spread this treasure of happiness and well-being and benefit, moved by compassion. So everywhere people admire me. The reason why this is so is because of this warm-heartedness that I carry around. The thought to benefit others. So I'm now 91. Judging by my dreams, there's indication that I may live to be 130, around 130 years of age. So, I hope to be able to help the people in China through the teaching of the Buddha, that the teaching of the Buddha be spread widely, that I may be able to help in that, and also to help people around the world to live a positive life, a good life. So this is my prayer for everyone. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. With this now, may I invite our Secretary, Mr. Tenzin Kunjabla, to kindly address the gathering with his welcome note.
Tashit Delek and good afternoon, everyone. Respected Chief Guest Shri Sham Saranji, distinguished dignitaries Shri Ken Srivastava, Shri Dilip Sinha ji, Shri KG Suresh ji, and Shri Surendra Kumar ji. Venerable members of the Sangha, esteemed speakers, scholars, friends of Tibet House, and dear students. On behalf of Tibet House New Delhi and our director, Venerable Keshi Toji Tamdullah, who is currently on a Europe teaching tour, I extend a warm welcome to everyone who have gathered here to celebrate the 91st birth anniversary of His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama. Today is much more than celebration of a birthday. It is a celebration of a life devoted to compassion, wisdom, peace, and the service to the humanity. For more than 9 decades, His Holiness has inspired millions across the world with his unwavering commitment towards the non-violence, universal responsibility, interfaith harmony, and the preservation of the Tibetan spiritual and cultural heritage. For us Tibetans, His Holiness is our spiritual leader. He is a guiding ray of hope and aspiration for the global community. He is a moral voice whose teachings transcend the nationality, religion, and culture, reminding us that kindness and compassion are not merely ideals but a practical necessity for a more peaceful world. We are especially grateful to the people and the government of India for the generosity and the hospitality extended towards His Holiness and the Tibetan community over the past several decades. The friendship has enabled Tibetan culture, education, and Buddhist scholarship to flourish in exile, and institutions such as Tibet House have had the privilege of contributing to this shared legacy. Needless to say, our distinguished dignitaries on the dais have been a great supporter of the Tibetan cause over the years. Established under the guidance of His Holiness, Tibet House has remained committed to preserving and promoting Tibet's unique culture and the tradition of the Nalanda tradition, while fostering dialogue, understanding, and friendship among the people of diverse backgrounds. As we come together to celebrate this joyous occasion, our thoughts also turn to those who are experiencing loss, uncertainty, and suffering. We remember with quiet solemnity Paul Lopka Rangsenla, whose tragic self-immolation just a few days ago has deeply saddened many within the Tibetan community and beyond. While today is a day of gratitude and celebration, it is also a reminder of the profound value of every human life. Inspired by His Holiness's message of compassion, we pray that all who suffer may find solace, that hearts burdened by the grief may find peace, and that wisdom and understanding may guide our shared future. Thank you for joining us on this special occasion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tenzin Kunjapla. Now I would like to invite our chief guest for today's inaugural session, Sri Shyam Saranji, to kindly address the gathering. Ladies and gentlemen, the chief guest of today's inaugural session.
Good afternoon and a very warm welcome to all of you. We are gathered here to celebrate the 91st birth anniversary of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and we have been very privileged to hear his own message on this occasion when he is currently in Ladakh. One of the important reasons why we have gathered here to celebrate his birth anniversary is also because perhaps more than any other time in our recent memory, his message has acquired a relevance which perhaps not many of us have been aware of. It is because, as we see, we live in a very divided world, in a very polarized world, where differences in ethnicity, in religion, in culture, these have now become, dividing factors rather than bringing us together. And so the message that he has consistently given of the importance of, this sense of brotherhood or sense of togetherness of humanity, I think is perhaps much more compelling today than it has been for a long time. I think after the inaugural session, there will be a panel discussion on the 4 commitments of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And perhaps it is worth just recalling what those 4 commitments are, because they really represent the kind of spiritual and religious heritage that he represents. A heritage which is not only Tibetan but is very much an Indian heritage as well. So the first commitment is that we should be promoting universal human values, encouraging, as he said in his own message, warm-heartedness, compassion, the shared understanding that all humans seek happiness and wish to avoid suffering, irrespective of what their religious affiliation may be. Secondly, fostering religious harmony. All world religions, he says, shared the same ethical tenets, that of love, of forgiveness, of tolerance, and encourage mutual respect. And the third, of course, is preserving the very rich and precious heritage of Tibet itself. Protecting the environment, because in a sense, Tibet and the Tibetan Plateau represents perhaps the most precious ecological zone in the world. And we perhaps do not realize that the health of this particular zone really impacts environment all across the world. And so preserving that heritage, ecological heritage, is also very important. Along with that, of course, is the safeguarding of the Buddhist heritage of Tibet. And the Buddhist heritage of Tibet is also very important to India, because much of the knowledge systems that were lost in India, in fact, were very lovingly preserved in Tibet. And in a sense, as he says, perhaps the time has come for the Chela, that is the Tibetans, to give back this knowledge to the masters who may have forgotten it. And I think that's a very important thing for us as well. And lastly, as I said, I mean, he's been talking about, reviving Indian wisdom. Not only reviving this Indian wisdom, but also integrating that wisdom with knowledge of our current times. So the science of the mind, emotional management, secular ethics, which he considers to be universal values, which we all share. So these four commitments really represent, in a sense, the essence of what His Holiness has been teaching. In our own heritage, in the Rig Veda, it says, "Ekam Sat Vipra Bahuda Vadanti." That is, truth is one, but there are many pathways to this truth. And so that is something which is really also encapsulated in the message that His Holiness himself has been giving to us. Also, I would end by talking about his, the constant emphasis on the right that all human beings have, and the striving for happiness. In our own knowledge system, we talk about Satchit Anand, or existence, pure and absolute existence, consciousness and bliss. This is also very much part and parcel of that same knowledge tradition. So we are very blessed in this country to have such a great master, such a great spiritual being still in our midst to guide us in our own lives, in our own thinking. I remember once when I met him, he emphasized that, we spend a lot of time cleaning our bodies. We talk about personal hygiene, but equally important is mental hygiene. How do we keep our minds clean? And that is also a message that perhaps we should learn today while we celebrate his birthday. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Sri Shyam Saranji, for your very warm and very captivating message, emphasizing on the very pure commitments of His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama. Thank you, sir. Now I would like to invite Sri K. N. Srivastav ji, our guest of honor for today's inaugural session.
President India International Center, Ambassador Shyam Saran, dignitaries on the dais, Dr. K.G. Suresh, Ambassador Dilip Sinha, Sri Surendra Kumar, ladies and gentlemen. Today is a really very auspicious day as we celebrate the 91st birthday of His Holiness. Anyone who has come in contact with him, he has simply touched the heart of that person. I recall way back in 1991, I got the first opportunity of meeting with him. I had only mentioned to his office that I was district magistrate of Karwa district in Karnataka, where Mundugo town is located. With this message was good enough. I got an immediate appointment and met him with my daughter and my wife. It was really a very unique kind of experience. I mean, you can see the divinity really radiating from his face. It was really a very overwhelming experience for all of us to interact with such a great person. What was most interesting was that he would not allow his personality to overawe you. He would make himself so simple that you feel at ease to discuss with him. I remember my daughter, who was a political science student at Delhi University, she was with me. He encouraged her to ask him questions. And she asked many questions which he answered. And finally, when we were leaving, such a great man, he came right up to our car to see us off. This is the kind of humility that he exhibits. It tells a lot as to how one should live a life, how one should be humble, how should be considerate towards others. Friends, I was very fortunate that, as director of IISc for the last 7 years that I have been here, His Holiness paid visit to IISc 4 times. And I had the privilege of hosting him. One, occasion was, something for which he himself was, he actually motivated us to do that. Some killings had taken place on religious, grounds. So he had conveyed a message to us that is high time that IISc should organize a program where all religions should, meet. And as President was mentioning, that every religion is conveying the same truth, only the ways are different of reaching the truth. So 2 days he was with us, and it was really very, very, I would say, enriching experience of his presence as well as the deliberation that it took place on those 2 days at his motivation. Friends, I was also very lucky in the sense that I got opportunity of working as Joint Secretary of the Ministry of Culture. And in that capacity, I was also looking after the Buddhist and Tibetan section, which, is there in that ministry. So in that capacity, I had occasions to meet His Holiness several times. When I mentioned to him that, there is a picture of his visit of 1957 to Nalanda in connection with a project which was to set up a Hevensang Memorial. Oh, he immediately got little races, says, I remember that visit. I would like to see that photograph, where it is at. I mentioned to him, it's very much there in the Nalanda, university. And it so happened that, because of his encouragement, the project, what was started, in 1957, but because of 1962 war, it could not proceed forward. But then after 2000, we started that one, and today, very nice Hevensang Memorial exists at Nalanda. I would only like to say that, as was mentioned by our President, His Holiness is really the apostle of peace, compassion, non-violence. And today the world is really under turmoil. Everywhere you see only struggle, war, killings going on. So His Holiness message is far more relevant today than ever before. And I'm sure if the world community listens to his words, his teachings, his guidance, perhaps we will have a different kind of world with full of compassion for each other, peace and tranquility prevailing everywhere else. Before I end, I would only wish the God Almighty to give long life to His Holiness, so that His blessings and guidance, continue to flow to all of us for the welfare of the humanity at large. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Rike and Srivastav ji. Now with this, I would like to invite my fellow colleagues to kindly bring the cake in front of stage, as we would like to do the cake cutting ceremony for the celebration of the 91st birth anniversary of His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama. May I request our esteemed dignitaries to kindly do the honor of the cake cutting ceremony. I request our chief guest, Sri Shyam Saran ji, and our guest of honor to kindly do the honor. And along with that, I would request all the participants to kindly sing the birthday song along with us, as our esteemed dignitaries will cut the cake. Birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday, dear Holiness. Happy birthday to you. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much, all the esteemed dignitaries. Now, as we proceed, now I would like to invite our guest of honor, Professor Dr. K.G. Sureshi, to kindly address the gathering.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kunga. Honorable Chief Guest, Ambassador Shyam Saran, Honorable Director of IIC, Shri K.N. Srivastav ji, Ambassador Dilip Sinha ji, Shri Surendra Kumar ji, and all the distinguished dignitaries present here. Namaste, Dehelek, and good afternoon. It's indeed a great occasion, a joyous occasion for all of us. My generation has not seen Gandhiji. But if we could imagine something close to that, they are different people, yet a symbol of passive resistance, a symbol of simplicity, a symbol of compassion, communal harmony. I could see that in His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Gandhiji could have also become the president or the prime minister of the country on attaining independence. He never aspired for it. The same way, His Holiness the Dalai Lama decided to give away his temporal powers voluntarily. It is perhaps very rarest moment in human history that somebody gives away temporal power so easily. We have had, but the only difference is that while Gandhiji was very much in his country, in the midst of his own people, here His Holiness is relentlessly fighting against an imperialist, expansionist power, sitting in a different country, becoming part of it, yet maintaining the unique identity of his people, preserving them. But at the same time, harboring no hatred against the oppressor. Still talking about compassion. This is what perhaps today humanity needs. Friends, we have had fraternal relations with the Tibetan people for a long time. In fact, they are among the most peaceful communities in India. I don't remember a single instance of any violent incident, either in Dharamshala or in Karnataka or any of the Tibetan settlements anywhere in the country. This is something rare. And I wish to mention here that, when I was a decade back Director General of the Indian Institute of Mass Communication, our students we used to send not to any tourist place or to any other educational campus. We said that students of communication and journalism should annually visit, of course with the support of the Central Tibetan Administration, Dharamshala. They used to go there. They used to learn compassion. They used to learn, what it, unique concepts like tolerance, acceptance. Friends, already Ambassador Shyam has already talked about the, 4 commitments in detail. I don't want to expand on them, but I would just like to say that, his mention of revival of ancient Indian knowledge and wisdom. This, he could have only spoken about his country or the universe. But this is something very close to his heart. In fact, he has always referred to Bharat as Guru. Not just for him, but for the Tibetan people. And he said that we owe a Guru Dakshina to them. And perhaps this is his Guru Dakshina, where in the 4 commitments he is talking about reviving, because he believes that they are integrally connected to Tibetan, Buddhism, Tibetan philosophy, Tibetan way of life, because that is the, kind of harmonious relations the 2 nations have shared since the dawn of civilization. His concept resonates within India because when he talks about harmony and peace, he reminds us of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. The entire universe, not just this world, not just this earth, but the entire universe as one family. It reminds us of our mantras, Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha. Let everyone be happy. It is this message that finds resonance in his 4 commitments. I am confident that the perusal of these commitments, not just by the Tibetan community in India, but by the entire world, would certainly lead to much more peace in this conflict-ridden world. It was not difficult for any leader to, motivate their younger generation for violence. But he chose the other way. He showed us a path. And where has violence led the world to? We have seen it in recent times. I believe that His Holiness, the Dalai Lama's moral power is overpowering, overwhelming. The entire world today believes that there is no place for violence in a civilized society. And he has talked about compassion, he has talked about the promotion of interreligious harmony, something that the great savants like Swami Vivekananda in 1893, while addressing the World Parliament of Religion, he talked about the need for not just tolerating, not just tolerance among religions, but acceptance of our diverse faiths and belief system. Because that alone can bring about harmony, universal harmony. I'm really fortunate to be part of this celebration. I'm sure we as institutions and individuals can contribute immensely to the promotion of these 4 commitments and the International Year of Compassion. Let this become a worldwide movement, and let us all pray on this very auspicious day. In the evening also we are having celebrations at our center also. Let us also pray that these commitments are not just celebrated today, but they are celebrated universally all through the year, all through our lives, because only that can guarantee permanent peace and stability. On that note, let us all join together in praying to the Almighty for not just the long life, not just the healthy life, but also that He may continue to guide us with the same vigor, with the same wisdom, with the same energy, and with that same great beatific smile that has always inspired us no end. Thank you, Tibet House, for inviting me. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.
Thank you very much, Professor K.G. Suresh. I would like to invite now Shri Dilip Sinha on stage to kindly address the gathering.
Ambassador Shyam Sharan ji, distinguished guests here. It is a great honor to be invited to speak on this happy occasion. But to be called upon to speak in honor of His Holiness is a bit like, as we say in Hindi, Suraj ko diya dikhana. All of us are deeply privileged to be able to celebrate His 91st birth anniversary. His Holiness is not just the spiritual leader of his people, of his country, but he embodies his country in a manner in which few leaders in history have been able to do. And we in India are truly blessed that he's here as our revered guest. He has taken the teachings of Lord Buddha to all corners of the world, giving Buddhism a new appeal to people in the modern era. And he has done more to make the people aware of the ancient Nalanda University than any other person today. So we are really grateful to him for being here to promote not just his country and his religious beliefs, but also the linkages that we have between our 2 countries. And what's important is that while His Holiness was practically born into his position of power, and he already enjoyed his people's faith because of the unique institution in which he was born. But his real stature today has grown with him because of his personality. And he practices whatever he's been preaching. So the struggle of his people in Tibet has been kept peaceful because he himself believes in non-violence. Similarly, the Tibetan community in exile, the most important teaching that he has given to his people has been education and being able to live with modern social values, which has enabled the Tibetan community in exile to adapt to the change amidst adversity in different societies. And as has been mentioned here, the Tibetan community has been able to blend, as in whatever society they have gone to, blending in them and enriching them. His Holiness is also, people may not be aware, a prolific writer. He's written several books, and his books have given relevance to the struggle of his people against repression. For him, religion, as has been mentioned here, is based upon ethics and human appeal. And his teachings transcend religious dogmas without, interestingly, abandoning religious practices. So he combines the two in a manner in which makes his teachings truly relevant to the modern young people today. And his championing of causes like human rights and the environment also make him extremely relevant to the world today as we go through all these challenges of violence, of climate change, and of human rights violations. But his greatest contribution, as mentioned by Mr. Suresh, is of course the voluntary abdication of his temporal powers and forming a government in exile. These democratic institutions and practices are equipping and will equip the people to deal with the challenges ahead. His Holiness's political journey remains unfinished and is seemingly impossible. Yet, remarkably, he harbors no animosity towards his oppressors. We pray for his long life and hope that in his lifetime, he will be able to attain his goal of resolving the Tibet problem. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sri Dilip Sinha. Now I would like to invite Sri Surendra Kumarji, the Vice President of India-Tibet Friendship Society. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome.
आदरणीय आज के कार्यक्रम के मुख्य अतिथि माननीय श्याम शरण जी, एम्बेसडर दिलीप सिन्हा जी, के सुरेश जी और श्रीवास्तव साहब जो अभी किसी विशेष कार्य से निकल गए हैं, और तिब्बत हाउस के सभी मित्र और साथियों जो इस कार्यक्रम को सफल बनाने के लिए दिन रात एक किए हुए हैं, तथा इस सभागृह में उपस्थित सभी विशिष्टजन। आज हम करुणा रत्न परम पावन दलाई लामा जी का 51 वर्ष होने पर उनका जन्म समारोह को मना रहे हैं। इस अवसर पर हम एकत्रित हुए हैं। परम पावन दलाई लामा जी एक दुनिया के एक आश्चर्यों में एक आश्चर्य हैं। आप देख सकते हैं कि परम पावन दलाई लामा की उपस्थिति मात्र से किस तरह का तेज निकलता है, हम लोग किस तरह से रोमांचित हो जाते हैं उनकी उपस्थिति में। हम भारत के लोग बहुत सौभाग्यशाली हैं कि परम पावन दलाई लामा ने भारत के अंदर शरण लिया और शरण लेकर के हम लोगों का मार्गदर्शन कर रहे हैं। हम लोग उनको शरणार्थी नहीं मानते हैं, बल्कि हम लोग अपना गुरु मानते हैं, जबकि वो मानते हैं कि हमारे गुरु महात्मा गांधी हैं और उन्हीं के रास्ते पर हम चल रहे हैं। वास्तव में बात भी सही है। गांधी जी ने कि जिस अहिंसक रास्ते से देश की आज़ादी को दिलाया था, एक बार गांधी जी का वो जो नॉन वायलेंस है वो टेस्ट पे है। अगर परम पावन दलाई लामा तिब्बत की आज़ादी उनके नेतृत्व में अहिंसक मार्ग से प्राप्त कर लिया जाता है, तो निश्चित रूप से एक बार फिर यह बात अहिंसा की महत्ता स्थापित होगी और गांधी जी के बताए हुए रास्ते के प्रति भी लोग कृतज्ञ होंगे। वे तो पूरा समय परम पावन दलाई लामा जी मानव समाज के लिए ही अपना पूरा समय लगाते हैं। आज विश्व की जो स्थिति है, चारों तरफ तनाव का वातावरण है, हिंसा का वातावरण है, ऐसी परिस्थिति में मानव का अस्तित्व संकट में है। ऐसे समय में परम पावन दलाई लामा जी ने जो बातें 4 प्रतिबद्धताओं के द्वारा हम लोग के बीच में रखा है, उसकी महत्ता बहुत अधिक है। सबसे पहले तो उन्होंने कहा है कि मानव के विकास के लिए मानव को कोई एक्जिस्टेंस पे विश्वास करना चाहिए। हमको एक दूसरे का हमको सह अस्तित्व के रास्ते पर चलना चाहिए। हमें क्षमाशीलता, धैर्यशीलता और स्व अनुशासन के मार्ग को अपनाना चाहिए। तभी हम एक दूसरे के साथ रह करके पूरे समाज को हम आगे की ओर ले जा सकते हैं। समाज में शांति और व्यवस्था कायम हो सकती है। विभिन्न धर्मों को आप देखें, आज दुनिया के अंदर एक धर्म दूसरे धर्म के ऊपर अपना प्रभाव जमाने के लिए तरह तरह से टकराहट का वातावरण पैदा कर रहे हैं। लेकिन परम पावन दलाई लामा ने अपने 4 कमिटमेंट्स में ये कहा है कि धर्मों को भी एक दूसरे के साथ सह अस्तित्व के आधार पर रहना होगा। सभी धर्म मानव कल्याण के लिए बने हुए हैं। रास्ते थोड़ा बहुत अलग हो सकते हैं, अंतिम लक्ष्य सभी धर्मों का है कि मानव का कल्याण हो, मानव का विकास हो। ऐसी परिस्थिति में परम पावन दलाई लामा धर्मों के समन्वय और सर्वधर्म समभाव को आगे लेकर के चलने की बात कही है, जो आज के दिन में, आज की परिस्थिति में बिल्कुल यथार्थ है और उसकी आवश्यकता हम सब हृदय से अनुभव करते हैं। तिब्बतीय लोगों में के विश्वास को बनाते हुए, विश्वास प्रकट करते हुए उन्होंने कहा है कि तिब्बतियों की कला संस्कृति, इन बातों को सुरक्षित रखना होगा, वहाँ के पर्यावरण को सुरक्षित रखना होगा। इसके लिए विश्व जनमत तैयार करने के साथ साथ अपनी तरफ से भी काफ़ी प्रयत्नशील है, जिसकी अत्यधिक आवश्यकता है। अगर एक दिन तिब्बत आज़ाद भी हो जाए, लेकिन तिब्बत की जो संस्कृति है, तिब्बत की जो भाषा है, वह बर्बाद हो जाए तो तिब्बती लोगों को क्या हाथ लगेगा? तो ये विचारणीय विषय है और इस विचारणीय विषय को रोक करके परम पावन दलाई लामा ने हम लोग के बीच में रखा है और पारंपरिक प्राचीन ज्ञान की भी चर्चा इस फोर्थ कमिटमेंट में उन्होंने किया है और कहा है कि हमारे जो प्राचीन ज्ञान थे उनको आधुनिक ज्ञान के साथ मिला करके हम विश्व कल्याण के लिए काम कर सकते हैं, नई पीढ़ी को उससे अवगत करा सकते हैं, नई पीढ़ी को आगे बढ़ाने के लिए काम कर सकते हैं। तो ये परम पावन दलाई लामा ने जो 4 कमिटमेंट्स के माध्यम से हम लोगों को शिक्षित करने का काम किया है, वो बहुत बड़ी बात है, अपने को जीवन में उतारने की आवश्यकता है। परम पावन दलाई लामा के विषय में मेरे जैसे साधारण लोग को कुछ कहना तो बहुत बड़ी बात है, लेकिन आप तिब्बत हाउस के लोगों ने इतने विद्वतजनों के बीच में मुझे कुछ अपनी बात रखने का मौका दिया है, इसके लिए मैं आपके प्रति आभार प्रकट करता हूँ। परम पावन दलाई लामा जिंदाबाद, जय भारत, जय तिब्बत।
Thank you very much, Sri Surendra Kumarji. Now with this, I would like to inform you that Tibet House New Delhi would like to present a video compilation showcasing the series of events commemorating the Year of Compassion organized by Tibet House New Delhi from the year 2025 to 2026.
We are celebrating the 90th. We are celebrating of the 90th birth anniversary of the Holy Dalai Lama.
We are very delighted to launch these 4 volumes of Series 21, 22. We are very delighted to launch these 4 volumes of Series 21, 22, 23 and 24 on this auspicious occasion of His Holiness the Great 14th Dalai Lama's 90th birth anniversary.
विशेषम ओम ये धर्म हेतु विशेषम तथा ओम ये धर्म महाश्रमानाय एवं वादी महाश्रमानाय स्वाहा.
To well-being of Tibetans and well-being of humanity. To well-being of Tibetans and well-being of humanity. Of course, on this planet, one Dalai Lama. So, of course, on this planet, one Dalai Lama.
His Holiness Tenzin Gyatso, the present Dalai Lama, the reincarnation of the previous 13 Dalai Lamas,
the present Dalai
who
Lama,
are in their turn
the
considered to
reincarnation
be
of the
manifestations
previous 13
of
Dalai Lamas,
Avalokiteshvara
who are in their
or
turn
Chenrezig,
considered to be
the
manifestations
Bodhisattva of compassion.
of Avalokiteshvara or Chenrezig.
Now another very
the
important
Bodhisattva of compassion.
agenda for today's session is now another very important agenda for today's session is opening of registration for Nalanda Diploma Course Batch 6
form for English,
Russian,
French,
to open the registration
Hebrew,
form
and
for
Mandarin
English,
languages.
Russian, French,
We are also delighted to announce the opening of registration for Nalanda Certificate Course Batch 3, beginning today on the 90th birth anniversary of His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama on 6 July 2025. On the 90th birth anniversary of His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama on 6 July 2025.
好多亲目真的出也，你叫送去他们去，好多亲目真的出也。
그 간쟁기 종이요. 사이에 그 땀버디. 가다. 시우. 그 간쟁기 종이요. 사이에 그 땀버디.
The Buddhism flourished so widely in the land of Tibet.
네.
The Buddhism
참여 흉내 송부터 저 네. 참여 흉내 송부터 편도 좀 쉽시도.
As for me,
삼로동야디. 편도 좀 쉽시도.
As for me personally, contemplating, meditating, and then reflecting on the text of the pramana or the epistemology and the logic, that is of a great benefit.
And touche.
Thank you so much.
I don't know about all of you, but I have always been fascinated with happiness. So Geshe-la, how would you explain what happiness is?
I would say that this is primarily because that people don't really understand what is happiness. So the real happiness is the freedom. The freedom. So when the degree of freedom expands, this is what we call as happiness.
Exams. So people come to us saying that, I'm studying for this UPSC and this isn't working.
And for the proficiency, this time I have a new plan. So I'm going to speak everything in Tibetan, and then they have to again speak in Tibetan with me. Otherwise, maybe if there's a short of the words, we might have to speak in sign language. That is what I've planned for the proficiency.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. With this, we have come to the conclusion of today's inaugural session, and I would also like to thank our esteemed dignitaries for joining with us today for the 91st birth anniversary of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and also all the participants who have joined with us today. With this, now we are going to have the second segment of today's event, which is the panel discussion on the four principal commitment of His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama. And I would request our esteemed dignitaries to kindly be seated. And I request Shri Dilip Sinha ji to kindly be on the dais, as we would like to begin with the next panel discussion, sir. Thank you.
So today, so here in this place in Ladakh, people are full of have unwavering faith and devotion and spiritual bonds with me, and many different people from around the world have gathered here, and you are praying for my long life. From my side, may the Dharma be revived and spread through compassion. Wherever it has spread before and declined, may it revive, and where it has not spread in the past, may it shine forth. So, it is my 91st birthday. So I'm now 91 years old. I've reached this age. When I look back in my life, this altruistic thought to help others has been there in my practice as soon as I wake up. Every day of my life. So saying this prayer, may the teaching of the Buddha be revived where it has declined. May it spread. May I be able to spread this treasure of happiness and well-being and benefit, moved by compassion. So everywhere people admire me. The reason why this is so is because of this warm-heartedness that I carry around. This thought to benefit others. So I'm now 91. Judging by my dreams, there's indication that I may live to be 130, around 130.
Team speaker, Ms. Dipti Gulati ji, the General Secretary of Ayurgyan Nyas, New Delhi, Dr. Saida Hamid ji, the former member, Planning Commission of India, and luminary in women's rights activism and authorship. Third, we have Mr. Yeshi Dawala, the senior researcher at 108 Peace Institute, former bureau chief, Radio Free Asia, Dharamshala. And then we have Dr. Kumud Bansaliji, the economic anthropologist, interdisciplinary researcher, and educator. Now, before I request our chairperson, Shri Dilip Sinha, to begin today's panel discussion, I would like to give you a short introduction about him. Shri Dilip Sinha is a distinguished diplomat, author, and a former member of the Indian Foreign Service from the year 1978 to 2014. During his distinguished diplomatic career, he served as India's ambassador to the United Nations in Geneva and ambassador to Greece, besides holding key diplomatic assignments in Pakistan, Bangladesh, Egypt, Germany, and Brazil. At the Ministry of External Affairs, he headed the International Organization Division and the Pakistan-Afghanistan Iran Division, and also served in the Prime Minister office during the tenure of Prime Minister P.V. Narasimha Rao. He is currently the chairman of the Asian Development and Research Institute, ADRI, Patna, and is the author of Legitimacy of Power and Imperial Games in Tibet, reflecting his deep engagement with international relations and Tibetan affairs. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to present Shri Dilip Sinha.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan. I'd like to welcome all of you to this panel discussion and thank Tibet House for organizing it. I'd like to welcome all the distinguished panelists here on this panel discussion on the 4 principal commitments of His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama. So without any further ado, I would like to go to our first panelist, Ms. Deepti Gulati. She is General Secretary and Trustee of the Ayurgyan Nyas, an organization established in 2014 with the blessings of His Holiness the Dalai Lama to promote universal ethics education in India. Since 2015, she has led the development and implementation of ethics-based curricula focusing on social, emotional, and ethical learning across educational institutions and communities. She has conducted numerous workshops on universal ethics for teachers, professionals, and community leaders, fostering compassion, empathy, and human values. She also serves as a member of the Ethics Committee of Maharani Lakshmi Bai Medical College, Jhansi, contributing to ethical education and leadership across diverse sectors. She will be speaking on the first commitment of His Holiness to promote the cultivation of warm-heartedness and human values. Over to you, Ms. Gulati.
Do I go there?
I think it's better to speak from here itself.
Will it change my slides?
Would you like to speak from there?
Ma'am, I would request you kindly.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, okay.
Much better to speak, sir. And you can make the microphone close to your mic so you can. It's gone.
It's on, I think. Good afternoon. Everybody can hear me? Thank you. So, Chairperson Dilip Sinha, my fellow panelists, and the August gathering present here, I really feel fortunate that today from this dais I am able to share my thoughts and the work that our organization is doing, especially on this auspicious occasion. So thank you, Tibet House, for inviting me. And I must thank Geshe-la in absentia. He's not present here. So today we begin a shared journey, one that strengthens the heart, deepens human connection, and contributes to a more peaceful world. Happiness and world peace are not distant goals. They begin with the human heart. Universal ethics education is rooted in the timeless wisdom shared by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. His vision begins with a simple but profound understanding that every human being seeks happiness, and the most reliable path to happiness is through warm-heartedness and the human values. These values are not bound by religion, culture, or geography. They are universal and they belong to all of us. Change it, please. So when we sit with His Holiness's first commitment, it touches something very tender in all of us. So let's see what it is. At its core is understanding that warm-heartedness is the beginning of all human being and cannot be taught through lectures because it is transmitted through presence. When someone feels held, seen, and safe, something inside them relaxes, and their natural goodness begins to shine. Warm-heartedness is not a value we teach, it's a feeling we awaken. And the second idea that these values like compassion, forgiveness, empathy are universal. They belong to every human being. No matter where they come from, what they believe, it is the language of human heart. And the next idea is very simple and yet so profound, that inner transformation creates outer peace. If we want calmer us, kinder communities, and more peaceful world, we cannot begin outside. We must begin within. And finally, His Holiness reminds us that peace and happiness begins in the human heart. Not in policies, not in systems, but in the quiet choices we make every day. And how we speak, how we listen, and how we forgive, and how we show up for each other. And this is why he says cultivating the heart is the first step to cultivating peace, because when one heart softens, the world around it softens too. Next, please. Let's see how His Holiness's first commitment transcends into the work that our organization is doing, developing and implementing universal ethics education. So when we talk about universal ethics, we are not talking about a subject or a textbook. We are talking about helping an individual ask 5 life-changing questions. What are these questions? The first question is, what am I feeling right now? This is the foundation of emotional awareness. Most children, and honestly most adults, react without knowing what they are feeling. Universal Ethics Education, and we call it UEE, teaches us to pause, to name the emotion, and understand what's happening inside. And this is the beginning of inner strength. And the second question, what is the best in me and that I can forward? That is ethics of virtue. This is where virtues come in, patience, contentment, etc. UE helps us to recognize that goodness is not something outside, but already within us in these virtues, waiting to be strengthened. And the third very important question again, can I open my heart to your experience and respond with genuine care? this is what compassion is. And it has 3 elements. First, seeing or noticing. Noticing someone's discomfort, sadness, fear, or struggle. And then comes feeling, allowing ourselves to connect with that experience of maybe pain or suffering. And finally, responding, offering care, comfort, and support in a way that feels safe and respectful. And the 4th question is, what is the wise thing to do? And we call it ethics of discernment. The ability to choose what is right. That's not easy. We learn to pause, reflect, and make choices that align with the values. And this is the heart of self-discipline also. And finally, the last question, how do my actions affect the world around me? Which is universal responsibility. We begin to understand how we are dependent on each other, that our well-being is connected to the well-being of others, and this is the seed of peace. Mindfulness in all the curriculum is the center point, because it is the inner condition that makes ethical learning possible. When we learn to pause, notice, and understand our emotions, our minds, every ethical value becomes easy to practice. So when we say universal ethics education, we are really talking about helping an individual live with awareness, goodness, compassion, wisdom, and responsibility. These 5 questions become the compass that guides our lives. Because when we look around us today, at our families, at the workplace, our communities, we see that human beings everywhere are carrying a lot inside. Next, please. Let's see now. Let's now come to understand that why this matters. What is the need of universal ethics education today? Today, when we look at our homes, our workplaces, we find so many people quietly holding a great deal within themselves. There is a rising stress, anxiety, emotional overload. We are moving through life at a pace that leaves very little time to breathe. We also see how quickly anger rises, in most of us or in so many of us, and how fragile resilience has become, and how difficult for many to express what they truly feel, not because they don't want to, but they really don't know how. There's a growing sense of comparison, isolation, and scattered attention. We are connected more than ever, yet many feel more alone than ever. Across spaces, whether personal or professional, people are struggling with behavioral issues, emotional safety, communication, not from a lack of intention, but sometimes from emotional exhaustion. That is why UE matters today, because it gives individuals the inner tools to understand themselves, regulate their emotions, and relate to others with compassion and clarity. UE is just not for children only, it is for every human being, trying to live with a steadier mind and a kinder heart. Next, please. So yes, human values are universal, and so is our work on universal ethics. In schools, it's woven into textbooks through stories, reflective exercises, and classroom dialogue. Teachers use these tools to create kind, balanced, and emotionally safe learning environments. For children in need of care and protection, that's where we work in communities, the approach is very different. Values become protective tools, helping children navigate different circumstances, build resilience, and feel emotionally safe. There, the facilitators work with worksheets, activities, and guided conversations to meet children where they are. In addition to our work in schools and communities, we support individuals and groups. These spaces help people build the emotional and ethical skills, as well as reflective habits that shape everyday life. This work encourages people to pause, look inward, and respond with balance rather than reactivity. Over a year of monthly sessions that we held at Salam Balak Trust, we called it Sangat, we saw facilitators kind of deepen their capacity to model compassion for children in shelter homes. So we work in 3 shelter homes with Salam Balak Trust. Across all these settings where we engaged, the message remains the same. Human values are universal and everybody needs them. Next, please. And how universal ethics education brings His Holiness's commitments into daily life. Let's see that. UEE operationalizes His Holiness's first commitment by turning universal human values into everyday action. Actions that transform the inner world and through that, the outer world. In compassion, if we see compassion, becomes more than a word. It becomes the ability to pause, to feel with another person, and to respond with empathy rather than judgment. Forgiveness, when we speak about forgiveness in universal ethics education, becomes a gentle act of letting go, not to excuse what happened, but to free ourselves from the weight that so many of us carry. Tolerance turns into a skill of perspective taking, the willingness to see a situation through somebody else's eyes, even when we disagree. Contentment becomes a daily practice of gratitude, noticing what is rather than constantly chasing what's missing from our lives. Self-discipline becomes the quiet strength of building healthy habits and exercising restraint, especially in moments when our emotions really, really want to take over. These are not abstract values. These are inner practices that shape how an individual thinks, feels, and responds. Next, please. So what are the conditions that truly create happiness inside us? Let's see that. When we speak of happiness in His Holiness's teachings, we are not referring to momentary pleasures. We are speaking of a deeper, more stable form of well-being, one that arises from the qualities we cultivate within ourselves. In universal ethics education, we are referring to deeper, more stable form of well-being and happiness. It cultivates emotional balance, helping individuals respond with calm rather than react with intensity. It nurtures inner lightness, helping people to release burdens and move through life with less emotional weight. It builds perspective and clarity, reducing friction and helping individuals navigate situations with more maturity. It strengthens gratitude and sufficiency in us, quietening comparison and grounding the mind in appreciation. It also develops inner stability, where habits, impulses, emotions are regulated with intention. And these inner conditions, taken together, create the foundation of genuine happiness. This is how UEE transforms the individuals, not by teaching happiness directly, but by cultivating the inner qualities that make happiness possible. Next, please. So when we are peaceful inside, we are peaceful outside. His Holiness often reminds us that the journey to world peace does not begin in parliaments or institutions. It begins in the human heart. When individuals cultivate inner peace, the journey to world peace, it naturally becomes more harmonious. A peaceful person speaks with clarity, listens with presence, and responds with care. This shift in behavior creates emotional safety in homes, in workplace, and in communities. As more individuals embody these qualities, the spaces around them begin to change. Homes feel calmer, workplaces become more trusting, and communities go more compassionate and resilient. Compassionate communities shape societies grounded in mutual respect and understanding. And societies built on understandings are far more capable of sustaining peace. The recognition that world peace is not an abstract idea. It is the cumulative result of millions of individual hearts choosing compassion, forgiveness, contentment, and self-discipline. Next, please. So as we come close to this journey, we return to His Holiness's simple and profound truth. World peace begins with the transformation of the human heart. When individuals cultivate inner peace, outer peace naturally flows. Every act of compassion, every moment of patience, every choice of forgiveness quietly reshapes the spaces that we all live in. Universal ethics education carries this vision into daily life. It helps children, adults build the inner capacities that make happiness possible and peace sustainable. When the heart grows kinder, the mind goes calmer, and the mind goes calmer, communities grow stronger, and strong, compassionate communities create a more peaceful world. And this is not a distant ideal. It's a shared human journey, a journey that we all walk together. So yes, we come to the end of the presentation. That's the last slide. So thank you everyone for listening patiently. And as His Holiness says, if we wish to create a happier world, we must begin with ourselves. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Gulati. It is very heartwarming to see organizations like hers putting into practice the teachings of His Holiness, because that is the way forward with the younger generation. For the second commitment, we have Dr. Saida Hamid. She's a distinguished activist, feminist, writer, and public intellectual, renowned for her work in women's empowerment, minority rights, education, and peace building. A former member of the Planning Commission of India and the National Commission for Women, she has consistently championed social justice and inclusive development. She is a founding member of the Muslim Women's Forum and Women's Initiative for Peace in South Asia. A prolific author and scholar, Dr. Hamid's contributions have been recognized with several prestigious honors, including the Padma Shri in 2007 for her distinguished service to society. She'll be speaking on the second commitment, which is to encourage harmony among the world's religious traditions despite philosophical differences. Over to you, Dr. Hamid.
Do you want to show that little clip?
Shall I play now?
One minute. Just one. May I just please. One sentence? Thank you very much, Chair and distinguished panel and distinguished audience. Thank you for your patience. There is a little clip, but first I want to pay my homage to 91st birth anniversary of the Dalai Lama. I've never met him. I had gone last year, and I was telling him to a place in not very far from Dharamshala, a place called Rakkad, that had a Jagori festival. And I did go to Dharamshala, but unfortunately the Dalai Lama was not there. So I have followed and I have revered him. So little clip that I want to show is my mentor is a person called Mohini Giri, who was the daughter-in-law of V.V. Giri, you know, the President of India. And she was my mentor. She was the chair of the Women's Commission. So her voice is over, and there is the voice is hers, but a few slides, and then I'll just make a few remarks.
मजहब नहीं सिखाता आपस में बैर रखना। आज क्या हो गया है हमको, हम किसी की सलवार पे कहते हैं, तो कभी निकाह हिजाब पे कहते हैं, तो कभी कुछ और कहते हैं। हम लोग को हो क्या गया है आखिर? हम लोग कब सीखेंगे कि प्रेम से रहना है, एक दूसरे को हमें प्यार से देखना है, एक दूसरे की चीज़ें हमको एक्सचेंज करनी है। ये एक बहुत बड़ा देश है और इस देश में डाइवर्सिटी हमारी जो है वो सबसे मुख्य चीज़ है। तो वो डाइवर्सिटी नहीं रहा तो हिंदुस्तान भी नहीं रहा। हमारे यहाँ तरह तरह के रंग होते हैं, तरह तरह के लोग होते हैं, तरह तरह की भाषाएं होती हैं, तरह तरह के पोशाक होते हैं। तो हम क्यों किसी को कहते हैं कि तुम घूंघट क्यों निकाली हो, या तुमने साड़ी क्यों पहनी है, या तुमने हिजाब क्यों लगाया है? ये तो जिसका है जो करेगा, इससे धर्म से भी कोई नाता नहीं है। ये है कि एक अपना एक विश्वास होता है, उस विश्वास के साथ अगर हम चलेंगे तो हमें ये बैर कभी नहीं आएगा। आज हमें अगर शांति चाहिए तो हमें अपने हिंदुस्तान को आगे बढ़ाना है, तो हम सबका आदर करना सीखें, हम सबसे प्रोत्साहित हों और सबको भली बातें दें।
So that is my mentor, and you know that I just like to repeat the second aspect. While respecting the uniqueness of each faith, His Holiness calls for the deeper understanding and cooperation among the world's religious traditions. He highlights that all the major religions share common teachings on love, compassion, and tolerance. When I was a small girl, मेरे वालिदैन ने, मेरे पेरेंट्स ने मुझे ये सिखाया कि इस्लाम is the religion of peace. और मैंने, my father wrote a book called basically Islam, the religion of peace. And at this point, you know, Islam is like the most cantankerous religion, the most difficult religion, and it's all over the world. And His Holiness the Dalai Lama, if we can atomize his teachings, and then we will understand the nuances of Islam. I want to talk a little bit about Islam because Islam is the world's most cantankerous religion at this time. And I was told, and I was, as a small girl, मुझे ये बताया गया था कि the whole mankind is God's family. Silm is the word for peace. The whole mankind is God's family. He holds them the dearest who does good to his entire family. No Muslim can become a Mu'min unless he or she likes for all others and makes friends with them for God's sake. And this is from Sahih Bukhari, which is a collection of the most authentic hadiths. Surah Al-Ma'idah, which is the 5th surah of the Quran, if anyone kills a person except by way of retribution for murder, he is as guilty as he has killed the whole human race, and he who saves the life of a single person is one who has saved the whole human race. Islam is totally misrepresented and misinterpreted by the so-called scholars of Islam. And I have, my whole life has been working on the Quran. My whole life has been working on Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, India's first education minister, who wrote the most authentic Tarjumanul Quran, the translation of the Quran, and the most liberal and the most humanitarian aspects. And I feel that people who have spoken before me, the inaugural session, it seems like His Holiness the Dalai Lama, it's very, very close to his teachings. So I would like to quote from Surah Fatiha, which is the essence of the Quran. And this is by Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, as I said, India's first education minister. And you saw the photograph of flanked by Mahatma Gandhi, flanked by Maulana Azad and Jawaharlal Nehru. And here is something that which would go very well with this enormously important birthday celebration of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. सूरह फातिहा की तालीमी रूह, ये पूरा कुरान है जिसका एसेंस 2 पैराग्राफ्स में दिया गया है, and not by me, but of course I've translated it, but originally Maulana Azad wrote in Urdu. So here is a person singing the praise of God, but the Lord he praises is not the Lord of any particular race or community or religious group, but the Lord of all the worlds. He is Rabbul Alameen. He is the Rabb of all the Alam. But of all his attributes, those of mercy and justice particularly strike his mind as if divinity manifests itself for him. He utters, "Thee alone do I worship, and thee alone do I seek for help." And there is the Siratul Mustaqim, which is the straight path. The path that he wishes to walk on is not the path devised by any particular religious group. The path that he has in view is the straight path which the founders of all religions and all truthful people have walked on, whatever the age or country and they have belonged. So what he asked for is the privilege to walk on the path which meant the happiness of all mankind, and not a path which has led to their ruin. So this is the Surah Fatiha. This is my book on India's Maulana, 4 volumes on that. So, this is the essence of the Quran, and I feel that the whole interpretation of the Quran is something which is scholars of the Quran and the treatises of declamations of the Quran, the khutbahs of the Quran, and make Islam into a very cantankerous religion. The other aspect that I have funneled myself into it is tasawwuf or Sufism, and that is a universal Amir Khusro, Nizamuddin Auliya. These are people from all, they are all encompassing. For example, Sheikh Sadi says, all human beings, Sheikh Sadi is a very well-known tasawwuf scholar from 17th century, all human beings are like limbs of a body, for in their origin, they are all from the same substance. And then again he says, Bakhtiyar Kaki, whose grave is, his mausoleum is in Delhi. Kushtagane Khanjare Taslim Ra. This is Persian. Kushtagane Farsi. Kushtagane Khanjare Taslim Ra. Har zamane ghab jane digarast. For those who have been killed by the dagger of submission, a new life comes every moment from the unseen world. You submit yourself, you love humanity, and that is the essence of the Quran. Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, in his Tarjumanul Quran, amply bears out the approach of the Sufis. On the day of the judgment, God will address a particular individual. O son of Adam, I was sick, but you did not attend me. Bewildered, the individual will say, how is that possible? You are, after all, the supreme Lord of the worlds, and you cannot fall sick. God will reply, Don't you remember that so and so among my servants was ill and lying close to you, and you did not turn to him in sympathy? If you had but gone near him, you would have found me by his side. So this is something which I find resonates with my feeling about His Holiness the Dalai Lama's teaching, his compassion, his smile, his complete humanity, all-encompassing humanity. And I feel that this is really what we need to understand. We need to understand Islam and its real essence, the real essence of Islam, which is silm, which is peace. So we need to resonate with the teachings of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and we commemorate him today because we celebrate him and we feel that his teachings should not in this entire world. And we have held so many press conferences on Palestine and the complete devastation of Palestine and the devastation of Beirut, of Damascus, complete devastation of that. And when we look at the world, and the first panel has spoken very well about it, we see destruction all over the world. And how can we witness it? Only by the essence of religions, essence of Hinduism, essence of Islam, essence of Sikhism, essence of the teachings of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. That is what we have to understand, and we have to project our understandings. We have to simply not nullify them, but completely universalize them. And so we will hopefully, have a more peaceful world. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
I thank Dr. Hamid for her presentation. We now come to the third speaker, Mr. Yeshi Dava. Mr. Yeshi Dava is a senior researcher at the 108 Peace Institute and a respected political analyst specializing in Tibetan affairs and regional geopolitics. He previously served as Bureau Chief of Radio Free Asia in Dharamshala, political anchor at Tibet TV, and an affiliated fellow at the Tibet Policy Institute under the Central Tibetan Administration. His writings have appeared in leading national and international publications, and he has frequently participated in television debates and policy discussions on Tibet and China. He holds a master's and a bachelor's degrees in political science from Banaras Hindu University and the Maharaja Shivaji Rao University of Baroda. He'll be speaking on His Holiness's third commitment, which is on preservation of Tibetan language, culture, and heritage that Tibet received from the great Nalanda Mahavihar of ancient India.
Kanri rawe kowe shinkam su penda dewa mali chungene chirense wa tinzi kyazoi shape side patu thank you chi. Namaskar Tashi Delek. My sincerest and deepest respect to our chair, Ambassador Dilip Sinha ji, and my co-speakers and dignitaries of the stage, and my dear brothers and sisters. I hope that covers everybody here. This is also how His Holiness greets whenever he speaks to the audience. If you look at the dais, right, I think I'm the least experienced and learned scholar on these dais. But I can relate myself to the third commitment of His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama, that is the preservation of Tibetan language and culture. And I'll just connect myself to this commitment. Then I have a premise for my talk, that is, if Tibetan language and culture are eliminated or erased from this earth, then Tibet's buffer state will also disappear. Hence, India has a significant role to play in preserving Tibetan culture and language. So this is the premise of my talk. I'll come to this point in later part. I was born in Tibet. I left Tibet at the age of 8 back in 1999. And I crossed those gigantic Himalayas for almost 2 months on foot. Can you imagine, in those shivering cold weather? I was barely 8 years old. And when I was told to flee Tibet, my mom just told me that you have to wake up and go somewhere else. And I said, okay. I was in a truck, and it went for almost like 3 to 4 days, and I was not knowing where I was. And I was accompanied by 2 senior monks. They were actually deported by the government of India to Tibet. And they came to India again, and they brought me into India. I was quite fortunate. So on way, this is how they encouraged me, inspired me. Whenever I see a mountain, it is quite difficult to walk. And I would tell them that, when will we reach the destination? And they would simply tell me that if you see a mountain there, if you cross that mountain, you would have reached the destination. When I crossed that mountain, I would see another mountain. So this is how I came from Tibet. On way, we were short of food. We even had to eat the carcass of yak frozen in Himalaya. And in daytime, we had to sleep so that we could walk in night in order to escape from the Chinese soldier patrolling the border. I was lucky, but there were few Tibetans who were trying to escape into Tibet back in 2007. And I think you can see that documentary on YouTube. Chinese soldiers shot one of them, one of the Tibetan group trying to flee into India. And I was lucky when I compare myself to that situation. Then I did my schooling from Tibetan Home School, Missouri, which is next to the Labasna, very famous for all the IAS trainees in India. When I finished my class 12, I went on to pursue my BA in political science from Banaras Hindu University. Despite staying there for three years, I couldn't pick up Hindi. मेरा हिंदी इतना खराब है कि जब भी मैं हिंदी में बोलता था, तब ये चुटकुला हो जाता है. So now what I'm trying to say here is, whatever I have become today is all because of His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama and the people of India. So whenever I speak, I always begin by thanking the government of India and her people. So I think you all deserve a big round of applause for yourself. Thank you so much. Thank you for shaping my career. Thank you for preserving Tibetan culture and language. Thank you for sheltering His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama for more than 60 plus years. So this is your contribution. And you have played a very big role in preserving Tibetan culture and language. Now the question is, will you also play more in preserving Tibetan language and culture when we face so many challenges from the other side? So today we are actually celebrating His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama's 91st birthday. I thought I should not speak about political parts of that is actually related with my presentation. But I'm hapless. It is very important. I'm here to remind you all how fragile the Tibetan language and culture have become under the rule of the Chinese Communist Party in Tibet. And we all know that they have recently come up with a new law, that is Ethnic Unity Law, which is trying to erase Tibetan culture and language right from the scratch. Can you imagine? Back in Tibet, you can't even have a picture of His Holiness. So that was there long time back. Now the Chinese government has realized that if we really want to control the people of Tibet, it is better to erase their identity. It is better to erase their culture, language. And this is exactly what they have been doing so far. And they have been training, they have been schooling more than 1 million Tibetan children from the age of 4 to 6 into colonial boarding schools. They were separated from their parents. They can't even speak in Tibetan. They have to speak in Mandarin. Now imagine, had I stayed back in Tibet, I don't know what would have I become today. I really don't know. Now because of His Holiness's leadership and the government of India, I've learned so many things in my life. So this is directly related to the third commitment of His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama. That is the preservation of Tibetan culture and language. When we speak about culture, Tibetan culture is actually intrinsically related to inner values. So that is what the first commitment talks about, the values of compassion. So this is what I really learned from His Holiness. His Holiness speaks about compassion, love, kindness. He doesn't talk about sophisticated teachings of Lord Buddha. He would say, just try to cultivate compassion, kindness, love. This is the simplest form of the teachings of Buddha. So I try to cultivate these values in myself. I'll give you an example. Whenever I travel in Delhi, whenever I use trains, right, the metro, whenever I commute in metro, before we go into metro, we always have to face security guards. So whenever I go for checkup, right, I would always greet them by saying Namaste, Assalamu alaikum, Sat Shri Akal. It depends on who the security is. And they would smile. So this is actually at least a small part of my contribution, a small part of my happiness that I'm trying to generate on others. So we can do it. We can do it. So when we talk about Tibetan culture, it is also related with Tibetan Buddhism, inspired by Nalinta-based Buddhist tradition. Buddhism is actually all about training your mind. It is about training your mind. And whenever I get up early in the morning, I would always recite the 8 verses of training mind. That really helps me a lot. Because, see, here's a very simple logic. If you're not good at playing football, if you keep on practicing, right, you become good at football. Likewise, if you are so angry, right, if you get angry very easily, if you can practice, if you practice, keep on practicing, like reducing your anger, you can do it. We can apply the same logic. Likewise, whenever I get up, I always recite all the 8 verses of training mind. So this is like the third verses. The third verse says, whenever you encounter someone who is so angry towards to you, and how do you react it? How do you react to them, or him or her? It actually depends on your mind. It depends on your mind, how you're going to react. And if you react, then you know that both of you will be in a very difficult situation. And if you can compromise his or her anger towards you, and if you just react by just simply letting it go, then it cultivates a small piece of peace in your mind. So that is Tibetan culture. That is Tibetan culture that really brought me up. And that's why I feel so resilient whenever I face problems, whenever I encounter different people, I can manage my mind because of the training of my mind. So this is the basic form of the teachings of Buddhism. This is also what His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama teaches. Now, coming to the second point, which is very much related to the premise that I spoke earlier, the Pandora's box to the preservation of Tibetan culture and language. Obviously, the Chinese government have been trying so hard, and they have realized that, even having, the territory of Tibet, it is not enough to, control the people of Tibet. Now, under that new law, the ethnic unity law, it has, 15, if I'm not mistaken, clauses and 65 articles, and the 63rd article says about targeting overseas Tibetans or Tibet supporters. Can you imagine? They can actually target overseas. It is more or less like a transnational repression. So now the point that I would like to raise here is, if the Tibetan culture and language are erased or wiped out completely from this earth, the Tibet's status of buffer state, that was once a buffer state between India and China, will also disappear. So that's why the government of India has a huge role to play in preserving Tibetan culture and language. Now, when we talk about the government of India and Indian people, India has been a custodian of Tibetan culture and language. I don't have to speak about history. The script that we see today, Tibetan language, came from India, Gupta script. And by the way, Tibetan script is one of the oldest 15 scripts in this world, which has more than 1,000 years of history. I was told this by Nicolas Tonandi, one of the highly regarded Tibetologists based in France. And it has also preserved the teachings of Buddha, the teachings of Nalanda Buddhist traditions. And whenever Prime Minister Narendra Modi travels abroad, Prime Minister Narendra Modi proudly says that India gave the world Buddha, not Yuddha. Now imagine who has actually preserved the Tibetan Buddhism. It is Tibetans. It is Tibetans. And why? I'll give another example. This is what the late Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh once said. His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama is the modern incarnation of Lord Buddha. And today, whether you believe it or not, he has become a global ambassador of Buddhism. Now, I won't talk about how China is trying to politicize his succession. So I won't talk about it. But imagine we will have to think about it. Because this is my point of view. The first commitment, the second commitment, the fourth commitment, all are actually related to Tibetan culture and language. All are connected with Tibetan language and culture. So I'll give another example. So many examples, sorry. So my presence here in this outfit, in this attire, the symbolism of my attire is quite simple. I'm actually warmed by a traditional Tibetan shirt, you can see, right? But I'm externally protected by an ethnic Indian jacket. So this is the role of India, that India has played so far and will have to play more in future. So the point that I would like to raise here is, if India plays a major role, what are the ways forward? First, I would like to suggest few steps. So far, Government of India has been so generous, have been so supportive. I really thank you all. Now we need more support when we are facing so many challenges from the other side. We need more. And if you push a little harder for next 10 or 20 years, perhaps we may get what we want. We never know. So in India, I would request the authorities of Indian universities to have more Tibet study centers so that the Indians will know the importance of Tibetan language, culture, and its environment. When we talk about environment, I was reminded by an incident in Guwahati. I was in Guwahati. I was on way to Cotton University for a talk, and I was in a cab. I asked the cab driver about the importance of Brahmaputra River. And he said, it is very important for Assamese people, the lifeline of Assamese people. Then I asked him, do you know the origin of Brahmaputra River? And he said, confidently, yes, I do. And his reply really shocked me. He said, it comes from Atlantic Mahasagar. Now, point that I would like to raise here is, if the people of India do not know the values of Tibet, the significance of Tibet, its culture and language, then how are they actually going to support or protest when China is trying to put dam on Brahmaputra River? That's why we will have to create more awareness about the importance of Tibet, its language, its culture, its environmental significances to Asia and India in particular. So this is the point that I would like to raise, and I won't take much time. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yashidava. You said that you were the most inexperienced of the panelists. I think that you are the most experienced, because the experiences you have gone through is something that, well, I hope none of us ever has to go through, but that is personal life that you have lived. And thank you for highlighting the links between our two countries and how the teachings of Lord Buddha were preserved and protected in Tibet. And now it is India's turn to protect those teachings because of the difficulties that your country is going through at the moment. Our fourth panelist is Dr. Kumud Bhansali. She is an economic anthropologist, interdisciplinary researcher, and educator with expertise in sociology, anthropology, and youth development. She holds a PhD from South Asian University, New Delhi, and previously served as assistant professor at Symbiosis School for Liberal Arts, where she founded the Center for Writing and Communicative Practices. Her research has been published in leading academic journals, and she has presented at numerous national and international conferences. Dr. Bhansali currently develops and teaches innovative curricula focused on the intellectual, emotional, and ethical well-being of young adults at the Community Library Project in New Delhi. And she'll be speaking on the fourth commitment, which is to revive awareness of the value of ancient Indian knowledge among young Indians of today. Thank you.
A very good evening, everyone. Tashi Dilek. It is indeed a rare honor and privilege to be here on the momentous occasion of the 91st birthday celebrations of His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama. It is also humbling to be in the presence of this distinguished audience, which consists of esteemed guests of honor, the illustrious chair and panel, respected venerable monks and nuns, and dear friends and guests. Before I begin, I want to thank my teacher, Venerable Geshe Dorji Damdula, Director, Tibet House, the Cultural Center of His Holiness the Dalai Lama for this opportunity, and also Venerable Professor Kaveri Gilji, who is ever so encouraging. They both are not here. I also want to thank the vibrant young staff and volunteers of Tibet House for always putting together such well-organized events with so much care and grace. So far, we've heard the three esteemed panelists speak about the first three commitments: Universal Human Value by Dipti Gulati ji, Religious and Interfaith Harmony and where Ma'am Saida ji speaks about peace as the real essence of Islam, and then Yeshi Davila, who spoke about preserving the Tibetan culture and its unique environment. And the responsibility that I have been entrusted with is to present my thoughts on His Holiness's fourth commitment to revive awareness of the value of ancient Indian knowledge among young Indians of today. A commitment which was added in 2017. In my abstract, I mentioned this fourth commitment as an important intellectual and pedagogical project, and I share here my reflections and experience as an educator. So throughout my trajectory, working with adolescents has been central to over my 2-decade-long journey. And it is in this context and with this background and biography that the fourth commitment wants me to reflect on what it could mean for young people and how my positionality as an Indian trained in modern education, also studying Nalanda Diploma Master courses taught by Geshe-la, and through some learning and experience, has tried to make sense of it all. So I'll begin from where my abstract ends. There, I deliberately use the phrase universal human inquiry. This collocation of universal and human would make anthropologists very uncomfortable. They would squirm. And allow me a moment to explain the historical context to which this discomfort is linked. It was the idea that knowledge, modernity, and progress are universal, and how European colonialism used these concepts to serve its agenda and delegitimize local, vibrant knowledge traditions. However, when His Holiness uses the same label universal, it is not to take one continent's idea of what is universal and enforce it upon the world. And as we saw from the very first speaker's presentation, it is to appeal to what is common across humanity and bring it to the world. And hence it becomes universal. It's also perhaps anthropology's own guilt as a discipline, because of how complicit and intertwined it was with the colonial project, that this sort of extreme criticality towards concepts, labels, terms, comes about. It's also a discipline to its defense, I would say, that is as equally self-critical as it is of the world around. I felt that it was important to provide this context and think about what we mean when we think about universal, which is taking what is the essence, as Saida ma'am said, and then bring it together to the entire humanity. It's also essential to provide this background when we speak about the revival of ancient Indian knowledge. I posit that this revival, which His Holiness endorses, and later the NEP 2020 also recommends by way of introducing the Indian knowledge systems, could be thought of as a broader intellectual move towards decolonization. The decolonial term is increasingly questioning whose knowledge counts, how it is produced, validated, and transmitted, because it was not only resources that were plundered during colonialism, but also delegitimized. It also delegitimized and replaced entire ways of knowing, being, and relating to the world around. And even decades after the colonizers left, the world is still suffering from the aftermath of colonialism, not only in terms of loss of intellectual traditions, but also a sense of identity. And this has echoes and resonances with what the third speaker was talking about. And revival of wisdom and knowledge traditions is taking place across the post-colonial world as we speak. In Latin America, where the indigenous traditions were suppressed by Spanish colonialism, in Africa, where European powers fought for territorial control, are a few examples. In the Indian context, Macaulay's 1835 Minute on Education made the colonial agenda explicit, and I present two quotes here. To create a class of people, Indian in blood and color, but English in taste, opinions, in morals, and in intellect. And there's another quote: a single shelf of a good European literature was worth the whole native literature of India and Arabia. We know that this could not be further from the truth. And thus, the colonial university became the primary instrument of this transformation through the English Education Act of 1835. And we are seeing resonances that are happening currently, what Shri Dawaji spoke about. And if we start to examine the vast repositories, the scale of what is lost, it is hard to reckon with. And then, not all is lost. Some historical context is necessary to situate the relationship between India and Tibet, which goes back to the 2nd century AD. It was through the rich legacy of Nalanda scholars and philosophers that Buddhism in Tibet was shaped and influenced. Historians like Professor Robert Thurman, who passed away recently, and Professor John Powers talk about this exchange of almost 2,000 years, which, due to His Holiness's presence in India, has led to causes and conditions of innumerable possibilities for Indians to be able to access what is truly theirs, and more importantly, has remained uninterrupted as an intellectual tradition, and hence is full of generative possibilities, and is not merely a relic of the ancient times to make claims of civilizational superiority. His Holiness says the Tibetans were the Chelas, and Indian masters such as Arya Nagarjuna, Acharya Chandrakirti, Bodhisattva Shantideva, and several other philosophers and logicians as Acharya Dignaga were the gurus, who were the trailblazers at various temporal points at the erstwhile Nalanda University. And why was this important? This context setting was important because it points to the rich exchange between India and Tibet that goes back to the 2nd century AD and continued for a very long time in the subsequent centuries. So today, much of what we know and can study is due to the tireless efforts where we can access translations, commentaries written by Tibetan teachers, translators, that was taken to the world. And thus, this fourth commitment of His Holiness and the motivation to bring back to Indians is not just a kind of a nostalgic revival, but a generative intellectual tradition that has been held and kept alive for all these centuries. We must not forget that the historical milieu was also defined by other philosophical traditions from other schools. And philosophers were in constant debate with each other and among themselves. The use of dialectical reasoning, systematic inquiry, created a vibrant atmosphere of learning and scholarship that Amartya Sen talks about in The Argumentative Engine. And yet it's not complete. Because along with this wisdom wing, we also need compassion, karuna, warm-heartedness that the first commitment spoke about. The balanced, reason-based inquiry is incomplete without being aware of the roles of feelings and desires in the way we interact with the world. I often tell young people, notice how you give feedback during class, presentations to those you care for, and with those you might have a little tiff with, you know? And this is where Nalanda Studies has been very precious for me, because you learn that your mental states have both the cognitive and the feeling dimensions. In the book, Beyond Religion, Ethics for a Whole New World, His Holiness gives an example that a cognitive mental process as simple as counting from 1 to 10 is also regarded as having some kind of feeling tone. So when I mentioned this to my students, they asked, what does that mean? And I gave a few examples and I think I was not very convincing. And then I said, okay, imagine doing a mathematical operation as simple as addition or subtraction. And now, depending on whether you love math or hate math, what is the feeling that's showing up? Because it's a very cognitive operation. And that's when it landed for them that, yes, this is what it means, when we're talking about how every mental state has a cognitive and feeling dimension. I now begin to conclude my presentation with saying that we also need to remember that as we reflect on the past, we do not conflate decolonization with nationalism, and instead focus on genuine, growing scholarly work. If we start to use knowledge instrumentally rather than engaging critically, then we'd lose on something rigorous, alive, and kept alive by the exchange between India and Tibet, and lose the opportunity to contribute to contemporary questions about mind, ethics, language, and reality, which is already kept alive through Mind and Life conferences, CBCT, C-Learning, and is entirely different from recovering it to prove some kind of Indian civilizational superiority. The former is epistemic justice, while the latter is nothing more than the mirror image of the colonial gesture that it claims to oppose. I want to end with what the Buddha himself said. Just as gold is tested through burning, cutting, and rubbing, likewise examine my words thoroughly, and only then accept them, not merely out of respect for me. I thank you all for your attention and for giving me this opportunity. And I hope that young people in the audience take this commitment of His Holiness's forward in ways that it tallies with His Holiness's true intention and is in harmony with the first three commitments towards a world where we are resilient and not brittle, calm and not anxious, and constantly aware of our interconnectedness and interdependence. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bansali. Thanks to our panelists keeping to the time schedule allotted to them. We have a few minutes now for some interactive discussion. If there are any questions that any of you would like to pose to any of the panelists, you're welcome to do so. Please identify yourself and keep your questions as brief as possible. Yeah, there's a person behind. I'll just give it to you.
Yeah, my question is to Yeshila. Could you slightly more elaborate that this new policy, which you have really mentioned in, which has come in the China, with reference to the language, how do you really see? Because somehow when I listen to that, it really appears that the whole language is going to disappear, because the language grows in a particular environment. Tibetan language grew in Tibet. And if it's totally off the ground from there because of the new policy, do you think that it will be able to survive in the aligned environment, whether it's in India or Europe or anywhere? So I just want to get your...
Thank you so much for this very important question. As I said earlier, that when we look at that new law, it is actually trying to impose Mandarin over Tibetans, Tibetan in Tibet. If you look at that the structure of that very law, now earlier it says that Tibetans will have to speak Mandarin for the government employment. If you don't speak Mandarin, you won't get the government employment. Now it has made compulsory for Tibetans to speak Mandarin. If you don't speak Mandarin, then you won't have any space to get any employment, or you won't find even any place to sit, should I say. The thing is, now it is trying to convert, not convert, I can say convert Mandarin as the sole language, the mother language in Tibet, in Uyghur, that is East Turkestan. So that is a major threat for us. And another example that I would like to say here is, under this new law, it has also come up with new provisions like minors can't enter monasteries. And they can't even, if you are not above 18 years old, you can't become monks or nuns. Now, can you imagine? So the very aim of this law is to eradicate Buddhism from Tibet. And they have been trying to synthesize Tibetan Buddhism into Chinese, but I think the fruition of that policy hasn't come as per their desire. Now this law is the target to continue their harsh policies towards Tibet. Now the second part of your question, will Tibetan language survive in countries like India? This is my biggest hope. This is the reason why I requested all Indians to contribute more towards preserving Tibetan language and culture, to have more Tibet study centers in India, so that they know the values of Tibetan culture and language. Then I think it can be survived in India if that does not survive in Tibet under China's rule. Thank you.
Thank you. The gentleman in the front row, or he's busy on the phone. Is the mic coming to you? Yeah, please.
Thank you very much. It has been a wonderful afternoon, and each one of those who spoke right from the inaugural session have so brilliantly shared very perceptive remarks, and in the context of the compassion, embodiment of compassion, His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Always, I think when we talk about compassion, kindness, and peace, why we are not able to have peace. For me, I feel that the question of justice and equity, unless and until the 70 to 80% of the world's population, including in India, 70 to 80% of India's population, they are either BPL or APL, below poverty line or slightly above the poverty line. And the same applies to all the rest of the country. How can we ever succeed in incorporating the idea of justice and equity? Because unless and until we do that, the 120 trillion global GDP, it remains confined to a small minority. So this has been the biggest problem to me when we talk about peace and when we talk about the injustices and the exploitation and the horrendous, brutality on the part of the state, many places of the world. So this is a big challenge. And though I have listened to many of the talks of His Holiness on the YouTube, He even spoke about Islam. And when we look at the example of Arabia, where there were about 700 to 800 tribes, and in a matter of just a few decades, they were unified. And it was done on the principle of justice, though there was kindness and compassion. So I don't know how the world will ever be able to learn the concept of justice and live equitably so that the poorest of the poor also have a place and the richest of the rich don't, waste away all those wealth because they are bored with life, while the poor are struggling for survival. And it's very sad, of course, what's happening to the minority communities in many parts of the world. So I would like to know if any of the eminent panelists like to share some thoughts. And each one of you have been so brilliant, so enlightening, and so heart-touching. I'm truly grateful that Tibet House invited me, and I'm able to participate. Thank you very much. I'm A.K. Merchant.
Thank you. No, I think there's the points made are extremely valid. It is very important for any society which wishes to have peace to have social equity as well. Because if there is social inequity, there's injustice, then there can be no peace in that society. And also, as His Holiness mentioned, the foundation of peace is inner peace. Now, inner peace also comes from the feeling that you are satisfied with the world around you and you do not have this feeling that you are being deprived of your rights. And these are some of the concepts that His Holiness has spoken about human rights. And all these are extremely important in any society. Society has to promote these to be able to maintain peace both within communities and the internal peace of the human being as well. Please, go ahead. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Is it audible? Thank you for that question, and I agree with you. And the world that we find ourselves in is increasingly making us believe that inequalities have increased, and they have increased, right? What we see around us. It's green. Is it working now? No?
Stay closer to the mic.
Is this audible? Okay, all right. I prefer this, thank you. I agree with what you said, and yes, it's a time of volatility, increased inequality, and there are various ways in which we can think about it. We can't wait for the world to be fully equal before we can become peaceful and compassionate. At the same time, we can't have an equal, peaceful world without compassion. So what does it mean for individuals? I think it means that to have our own stability, our own clarity, to cultivate self-awareness, to be able to relate to people around us with care and compassion, and to be able to empathize with people knowing the systems that they are navigating and struggling with. As Deepti ma'am said, for educators to be also well-versed in universal ethics, for the young people, the young children that we are training, we need educators to be able to hold space for that. And I believe in the generative possibilities of the classroom. So for me, that's where, good educators with warm-heartedness, with compassion, creating classrooms that look at justice, equity, and then we create more ripples of justice and equity.
I don't know whether my response would make any sense, but when we talk about compassion and justice, I'm just reminded of this beautiful analogy by His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama. He says that compassion, religion is like a tea, something that you drink. We can live without tea. But if you look at the component of tea, that is water. So you can't live without water. So compassion is like water. Now, when we talk about justice, justice, according to Michael Sandel, one of the professors at Harvard, justice is actually to give what you deserve. Now, if the leaders who are at the helm, if they are compassionate by nature, I think they would give whatever the others deserve. This is my response.
If there's no other question, I'd like to bring this panel discussion to an end. I'd like to thank all the panelists here for their contribution and thank Tibet House for organizing this panel discussion. Thank you. Let's give a big applause to all the panelists.
Thank you very much. Now I would like to request our chairperson, Shri Dilip Sinaji, to kindly offer the white scarf and the souvenir to our esteemed panelists. First, we have Ms. Dipti Gulati ji, who has spoken on the first principle commitment of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Then we have Dr. Saida Hamid ji. Third, we have Mr. Ishi Dawala, the third principle commitment. And last but not least, we have Dr. Kumud Bansali ji, who has spoken on the fourth principle commitment of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Thank you very much. May I also request our chairperson, Shri Dilip Sinaji, to kindly present the certificate of completion to the passing out student of the 30th batch of Tibetan language course before we conclude this panel discussion. And I request our esteemed panelists to kindly go downstairs so that we'll be doing the presentation of the course completion certificate. So first we have Mr. Siddharth S. Shikawat ji, who has completed his beginner's level. Mr. Siddharth S. Shikawat, who has completed the beginner's level of the 30th batch of Tibetan language course. Then we have Miss Manali Saxena ji, who has completed her intermediate level for the 30th batch of Tibetan language course. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Manali Saxena. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. With this, we have come to the conclusion of the panel discussion on the four principle commitment of His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama. And I would also like to express my sincere appreciation and extend my deep gratitude to all the esteemed panelists and our chairperson for conducting today's panel discussion on the four principle commitment of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And let me also take this opportunity to once again wish His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama a very long life on his 91st birth anniversary. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. With this, now we conclude today's segment, and I would like to inform you that we have a high tea and refreshment for all of you. And I would also like to, before I conclude, yes, I almost forgot to mention that. I would like to invite our secretary, Mr. Tenzin Kunjabla, to kindly address the gathering with his vote of thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Kumala. Actually, you've already done my work, so I'll just take 2 minutes. I would like to thank all the dignitaries, our chief guests, Shri Sham Saranji and Shri Ken Srivastavaji, who had to leave due to other commitments, Ambassador Dilip Sinha ji, Shri KG Suresh ji, and Shri Surendra Kumar ji. Your participation reflects the friendship and solidarity between the Tibetan and Indian people over the many decades. And I would like to thank our esteemed panelists. Your reflections have beautifully highlighted the extraordinary life of His Holiness and his vision. I would like to thank our director, Venerable Keshe Doshi Tamdullah, who is not with us today, for his constant guidance. Today's event is a result of the constant guidance we have received from Geshe-la over the years, which have greatly enhanced the capabilities of our young staff. Last but not the least, I would like to thank our friends, our supporters, and all the members of the audience for celebrating with us today. On this occasion of His Holiness's 91st birth anniversary, let us offer our heartfelt prayers for the long life of His Holiness and for his excellent health and for the continued fulfillment of his noble aspirations. May his boundless compassion and wisdom continue to illuminate the world for many years to come, bringing hope, peace, and happiness to countless beings. Once again, I thank you all for your gracious presence. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We have come to the conclusion of today's event of the 91st birth anniversary of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And I do regret to inform you that we actually had a cultural performance for all of you. And I'm pretty much sure that you guys were really excited to see the culture performance. But unfortunately, due to the very tragic incident, as per the discretion of Venerable Geshe-la, we have called off the culture performance for this time. But stay tuned, we'll be coming back once again. Thank you very much and have a lovely evening. Thank you. High tea. Ladies and gentlemen, the high tea is served just next to the reception area. I request all of you to kindly help yourself. Thank you.